So after 25 years, I found out my stepmother was actually my biological mom. "You ungrateful brat," she spat out when I finally confronted her. I didn't bother arguing, just told her about the nurse's confession. And it was just this morning. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I'm in my last year of med school. I've been totally immersed in genetics lately for this big project. I've been studying inheritance, mutations, all of it. For a practice run using some new sequencing software, I needed simple samples. I grabbed one of my own hairs, easy enough. Then I carefully went through Dad's comb and Mom's, Eliza's, brush, looking for a couple of strands with the root attached. It was super important for the nuclear DNA analysis I was going to do. I knew from my studies that just the hair shaft wouldn't cut it. Honestly, I thought it would be a total bore, just confirming what I already knew. Yeah, right, nope. The results came back and I ran them again and again, carefully checking every step. Software error, contamination, nope. According to the markers, Richard was absolutely my dad. Eliza, zero maternal match, like statistically impossible. We were less related than random people. My brain basically shut down. This is the woman who raised me. She packed my lunches, nagged me about my grades, the whole mom thing. I couldn't keep it to myself. I waited until Mom was out shopping. I sat Dad down and just showed him the printout. He went white as a ghost. He just stared at it for maybe 5 minutes straight. Then he just quietly whispered, "No, that's not possible." We retested, sending new samples that I'd collected super carefully. He grabbed one himself, but this time to a different lab using fake names. The same thing happened. My dad, yeah, Eliza, not my mom. Things got real strange around the house and quick. Dad was all on edge, barely said a word. Eliza kept wanting to know why we were whispering, always trying to listen in. Then one night she got me alone and asked why I was suddenly so into our family's past and if my project was really such a big deal. There was this tone in her voice I hadn't heard before, almost like she was on the defense. Dad and I knew something wasn't right, but we had no clue if it was an affair or some mix-up with IVF. We were just shooting in the dark. All we knew was the woman I called Mom was. We needed answers, the real ones, and I just had this feeling Eliza wasn't going to give them up easy. Right. Things went from 0 to 60 fast. Dad and I spent a few weeks quietly looking around. My birth certificate looked normal. Getting any records from the hospital I was born at felt like climbing through a jungle. We ran into a bunch of brick walls for a while. Dad started talking more about how tough Eliza's pregnancy was and how she was kind of down after I was born. He also remembered with growing discomfort that his current wife, Clara, 52F. They got married when I was 10 after he and Eliza split up. She'd also been pregnant around the same time. He had thought she had given birth at a different hospital close by. His memory was all over the place after all these years. We didn't have solid proof of who my real mom was, just who she was. But the pressure was becoming unbearable. Eliza was getting really aggressive, grilling Dad about whether he believed her and wondering why I was being so distant. So last Sunday, we all sat down, just the three of us, right at the kitchen table. I went over the DNA results, cool and collected, for the 100th time. Eliza just snorted. "That's stupid," she said. "Those tests are wrong. The lab messed up." Dad chimed in, his voice a little shaky. "Lisa, we did this multiple times. Different labs and everything was on the up and up." Then the crying started, tears, accusations, the whole shebang. "After everything I've done for you, raising you, sacrificing for you, how dare you accuse me of what? Lying about giving birth to you, that's crazy." Dad looked down at the table, clearly hurting. "Lisa, I didn't know all this, but I knew things were hidden after the birth. Complicated. You asked me not to press it, and I shouldn't have let it go." Before Eliza could even get a word in, I slid the first DNA report across the table. "Explain this then." Silence. Eliza looked at the paper, then at Dad, then back at me. Her face changed from all those tears to this icy anger. "You ungrateful brat, digging into things that don't matter to you." Then she turned on Dad, twisting his words, latching onto his admission that something wasn't right. "Complicated. Richard, you agreed not to ask questions." Dad looked totally blindsided, like she'd pulled the rug out from under him. "Agreed not to question the difficult birth you talked about, not this." "What is this, Lisa?" She just stormed off. And a few hours later, my phone starts blowing up. It's Aunt Karen, Eliza's sister. So Aunt Karen says I'm some kind of monster trying to wreck the family with lies, all because I'm supposedly bombing out of med school and need someone to blame. Seriously. The very next day, Eliza launched her little attack. First, she changed the Netflix password classic. Then it was accidentally tossing my leftovers. And she told Dad I needed to apologize for, the things I said. The whole thing felt so entitled, so over the top. She actually believed she was the victim, twisting how Dad had sort of brushed aside some weird stuff about my birth into proof of her lies. Dad's totally freaked out, but mostly by her crazy reaction, especially the way she keeps saying, "You agreed," like it's a weapon. He admitted he'd always had a nagging feeling about some parts of the story Eliza told him about my birth, but swore he never dreamed it was anything like this. We still don't know the whole story, but Eliza just blew her cover. She knew all along, and now she's furious and it's all coming out. Things are getting insane. Eliza's entitlement has gone completely off the rails, and Aunt Karen's become her attack dog. Eliza's gone from childish password changes to seriously invasive stuff. I caught her snooping around my laptop, pretending to look for a charger. Then, bam, she's telling all our family friends I'm having a total meltdown because of med school, trying to trash my reputation before I even get a chance to explain. Aunt Karen calls constantly to just yell insults at me. Apparently, I'm trying to steal Eliza's identity as a mom and break Richard's heart. Seriously, lady, get a grip. It's a relief to see Dad finally starting to wake up. Eliza's all-out lies and constantly being on the defensive have him really second-guessing everything. He started helping me investigate, concentrating on the hospital where I was supposedly born. It was slow getting any information. We managed to track down the retired OBGYN. Dad remembered him, but, 25 years is a long time. Nothing specific. He did say the hospital had a big shakeup in administration about a year after I was born because of issues with record keeping, which was kind of a big deal. Then Dad, wanting to be absolutely sure about the timing, straight up called Clara. He just asked her flat out, "Clara, when you lost the baby, which hospital was it and what was the date?" He said her response sent chills down his spine. She said the same hospital Eliza claimed I was born in and the date was the exact same day. Everything just started snapping into place, super fast and incredibly scary. Clara had a baby boy and Eliza, well, Dad remembers her being beside herself, the nurses acting all secretive. Eliza wouldn't let anyone visit for a day or two. At the time, he just figured it was postpartum depression. What if Eliza's baby didn't survive and she saw Clara vulnerable in the same hospital and saw a chance? It sounds absolutely bonkers, like something out of a movie, but it fits with the DNA results. Eliza's relentless denial, her words to Dad, the hospital's mess-ups, Clara being right there, the struggle to prove it, and the huge question mark hanging over everything. Clara, does she know? Did she ever know? He told me. She was totally wrecked after losing that baby. Seriously, we needed Clara's DNA, and it felt like a bomb going off just asking. Dad, being the sneaky one, got a hairbrush she left at his place. He made sure he got some hairs with the roots and shipped it off to compare to my DNA. Waiting for the results was pure hell. We'd spent weeks looking everywhere and hitting nothing, and now this huge secret was possible. The anticipation was killing me. Eliza, on the other hand, was pulling out all the stops tears, the silent treatment, and then demanding Dad choose between his lying son and his loving wife, who raised his child. But she was wrong. The divorce papers were already in the works before any of this. He just hadn't given them to her yet. This whole mess just confirmed his decision. Then my Aunt Karen tried to get me outside my apartment, screaming at me to leave Eliza alone. I told her to get lost or I'd call the police. She ran off, but still, wow. I was just waiting on those DNA results. If it was a match, everything changed. And then the update. The results were in. A complete maternal match. Clara is my actual mom. I just sat there, staring at the email. My med school brain kind of knew it was coming, but my actual brain just shut down completely. My stepmom, the sweet lady, a little quiet maybe, but always good to me, who married my dad years after all this. She's my mom. Dad was crushed. Relieved it wasn't that particular secret, but devastated for Clara, for me. And furious at Eliza. It was a messed up thing, the whole lie. Telling Clara was the worst thing I've ever had to do. My dad and I sat her down, explained the DNA results, the timeline, everything, and watched her world completely fall apart. For 25 years, she'd grieved for a baby she thought had died at birth or been stillborn. That's the story Eliza, the hospital, fed her. And there I was, her son, perfectly healthy, raised by the woman who probably planned the whole thing. I can't even begin to describe how awful it was to see her like that, the shock and grief. It was brutal. But after the initial shock, Clara showed this unbelievable strength, a side of her I'd never seen. She was determined to get answers, so we started digging. How did Eliza do it? Dad remembered a nurse who was super attentive to Eliza, almost too attentive while they were in the hospital. Her name was Beatrice Miller. Finding her wasn't easy. We had to hire a private investigator, and it took forever. Almost 2 weeks of digging through old records, chasing dead ends. But finally, they found her. She was retired, living a quiet life in another state. Dad and I flew out there, no warning, just showed up at her door. She looked totally freaked out. Dad introduced himself, and we didn't start accusing her. We just said we were trying to clear up some inconsistencies in my birth records, mentioned some problems they'd had at the hospital back then. She tried to play it off, saying it was all so long ago, her memory was foggy. But then Dad mentioned Clara's name and the exact date. Beatrice started shaking. Maybe it was her age, maybe it was guilt, I don't know. It might have been something with her health, what the private investigator had brought up. Whatever it was, it broke her down. She just spilled everything. The tears wouldn't stop. Eliza's baby had been stillborn, and Eliza was completely beside herself. Beatrice explained that Eliza found out Clara, in a different room, had just given birth to a healthy baby boy. But she was wiped out. Eliza offered Beatrice money, a crazy amount. Back then, Beatrice confessed, so ashamed. She agreed to switch the baby's identification bands and mess with the paperwork before Clara even got a good look at her son, or the stillborn baby was officially dealt with. Beatrice Young, completely controlled by Eliza's forceful personality and buried in debt, just went along with it. She swapped the tags, filed false reports, told Clara her baby was gone, and helped Eliza leave with me. She said this guilt had been eating her up for years. She didn't have any solid proof, like old bank records. She'd spent the money fast, tried to forget. But she remembered exactly how much Eliza paid her in cash. She described the meetings, the specific lies she told Clara. She immediately agreed to give a sworn statement, laying out everything she remembered. We offered to pay for her own lawyer to look things over and advise her which she wanted to finally ease her mind. And now we have it. The DNA, the timeline, the nurse's detailed sworn confession that mentioned specific, verifiable details like the payment amount, the reason, the whole awful truth. Eliza didn't just lie. She stole a baby. She did some really bad things. It was a mess fraud, maybe even kidnapping, depending on how you look at it. A whole conspiracy. Clara, my dad, and I, we all wanted the same thing, justice. We had a plan, and it wasn't just about exposing Eliza. We were going to completely destroy her. We got a lawyer, filed a police report, even got Beatrice's sworn statement. Dad's lawyer is digging into Eliza's finances from around the time I was born, trying to track down big cash withdrawals or anything fishy, hoping to match what Beatrice said she was paid. The next step, a final showdown armed with all the proof. Okay, so it happened. The big showdown went down last week, and the aftermath. Let's just say it felt damn good. We set up a meeting, me, Dad, Clara, and our lawyer. We had Eliza served with divorce papers right beforehand, just to make it clear this wasn't some friendly get-together. Of course, Aunt Karen was there, ready to fight. Eliza jumped right in, saying, "If this is about the divorce, Richard, talk to my lawyer." Then she pointed at me, "And you stay out of it." Our lawyer just calmly laid out, "Actually, Eliza, this concerns events surrounding my client's birth and the affidavit from Nurse Beatrice Miller." Karen went, "Who? Oh, for crying out loud, not this again. He's crazy. I didn't do anything." Then, bam, I put down a file with the DNA results, mine, Clara's, and Eliza's. I had the notarized statement from Beatrice Miller with all the details about the switch and the bribe. There was also a schedule that showed when Clara had her baby and when Eliza left the hospital. Plus, there was a heads up that we were looking into the money trail, trying to confirm what Beatrice had said. When Eliza saw the first page, saw Beatrice's name and affidavit, she just went white. Karen was still going on and on. "What is this garbage?" Then she saw it, too, Beatrice's statement. Eliza looked totally freaked out, and she whispered, "She wouldn't." Clara said, really quiet but firm, "She did. She told us everything, Eliza, how you paid her, the amount in cash Beatrice mentioned, how you took my son after your baby passed away, how you let me go on grieving for 25 years. Eliza tried to deny it again, but it was just sad. "She's lying." "She's old and confused. There's no proof." Our lawyer jumped in. "Her sworn testimony under oath is pretty strong, especially when you consider the DNA evidence and the hospital's past problems, and we've already filed a police report for fraud, possible kidnapping, and conspiracy based on all this." He added, "The detectives will probably be calling you soon." That just destroyed her. She went from denying it to being furious, then started begging. She yelled at Dad that he owed her because she raised me. She screamed at Clara that she was ruining her life. She screamed at me that I was an ungrateful monster and that she wished she'd never taken me. Real nice. Karen tried to get between us, tried to physically intervene. My lawyer was cool, telling her she could get nailed for obstruction and messing with witnesses. She totally freaked, like seriously shocked that this was all real, like with actual consequences. Eliza was screaming at Dad to stop everything. The cops wanted alimony. They also wanted the house, which was only in Dad's name, bought way before he even knew her. Huge mistake on her part not getting her name on the deed. Dad just looked at her, totally disgusted. "Get out of my house, Eliza, now," he said. She wouldn't budge. She started throwing stuff, like a little kid throwing a fit. We called the police not to haul her off right then, but our lawyer figured it was better to let the detectives do their thing. The police showed up because it was a disturbance and she was trespassing. This is India, so things work a little differently, but the rules for dealing with trespassing and disruption are basically the same. The cops listened to everyone calmly. They saw the divorce papers saying the house belonged to Dad. They saw Eliza acting crazy and led her off the property. They told her to call her lawyer and stay away. Karen practically ran after her, looking scared to death. The locksmith showed up the next day. Yep, he checked Dad's ID and all the paperwork carefully. The locks got changed and they put in security cameras. The aftermath. So far, the legal guys have talked to Beatrice and are building their case against Eliza. It's slow going. The processes here take time, but things are happening. The potential charges are serious. Her lawyer is probably telling her to get ready for the worst financial news. So my dad's lawyer's using that confession and the proof of Eliza's fraud to really screw her over in the divorce settlement. They've frozen all their joint stuff, splitting everything up super carefully, and Eliza's fraud is a huge factor. It's a nightmare tracking down proof of that cash payment from 25 years ago, but that sworn statement. Man, it's really hurting her case. She's probably going to get next to nothing, maybe just the bare minimum the law says she has to get, and even that won't be much given how long it's been since they separated. For years, she lived the high life on a complete lie. We carefully told a few key people, family, and close friends she'd tried to turn against me about the statement, not the whole thing, you know. That was our lawyer's advice. And wow, the reaction was immediate. My phone blew up. People were calling, apologizing to me and my dad, totally condemning Eliza. Aunt Karen, who Eliza had been trying to manipulate, went completely silent. I guess she realized she'd bet on the wrong horse big time. Eliza's whole social life gone. Poof, she's toxic now, completely ostracized. As for where she's living, I heard she's crammed into Karen's apartment. No more fancy house, no more easy living. Talk about a reality check. The best part? Seeing the look on her face when she found out Beatrice confessed. Seeing her get kicked out of that house she'd been living in, built on lies, knowing the legal system's about to crush her and her reputation is in absolute ruins, all because of her own doing, that my friend felt like justice. It was all cold, calculated, and totally her fault. We didn't need to put on a show, just tell the truth, and it worked like a charm. Screw her. She created her own mess, and now she's stuck with it. One last update. Hey Reddit, long time no talk. I figured I should give you all the final word on this family disaster. It's been around 9 months since that first DNA test, and it completely shattered everything I knew. Things are different now. Quieter in some ways, a bigger mess in others. Eliza. The legal stuff here moves at a snail's pace, maybe even slower than usual, but it eventually got the job done. She ended up taking a plea deal a couple of months ago. She dodged jail time for the worst stuff, probably because so much time had passed, and it's hard to prove she meant to kidnap anyone after 25 years. But she was found guilty on several fraud and related charges that came from her lies. Probation, massive fines, which Dad's divorce settlement will make sure she pays, and a criminal record for life. She lost everything in the divorce. Dad's lawyer used the affidavit and proof of fraud like a weapon. Last I heard, she's still crashing with Karen and working a low-paying job. Apparently, she still thinks she's the innocent one in all this. Some people just never learn. Aunt Karen still sends those passive-aggressive holiday cards sometimes. Straight in the trash they go. Dad, he's doing all right. He still gets hit with the guilt of not seeing it sooner, but he's working through the divorce. Getting it finalized was a huge relief for him. He's been a total rock for me and Clara, you know? Things are way better between me and my dad, more open, more real. Now about Clara, this is where it gets messy. She's my biological mom, and we're slowly figuring this whole thing out. It's not like a magic wand suddenly made us best buds. There's a huge gap, 25 years, and a ton of messed up stuff surrounding my whole life. But we're trying, sharing chai, building something real little by little. She's still hurting, grieving the life she thought she'd lost, the baby she mourned, all while getting to know the son she never knew she had. It's intense, but man, she's incredibly strong. I seriously admire how gracefully she's handling all this. We're just taking it one day at a time, no pressure, no expectations. I finished up at Dr. Biohazard, I'm officially Dr. Name. Okay, truth time, I kinda squeaked by on my exams, but hey, I'm starting my residency soon. This whole thing, it really messed me up. I'm definitely more cynical than I used to be, but finding out the truth, as brutal as it was essential. Seeing Eliza face the music, it wasn't some dramatic revenge thing like a Bollywood movie. It was about her taking responsibility, about the truth coming to light, things evening out. It wasn't pretty, but it gave me a weird sense of satisfaction, a real sense of closure. Life's not a fairy tale. There are going to be scars, but Eliza's lies, they don't get to dictate my future. My dad, Clara, and I were building something new, something based on truth. This one's gonna take work for sure, but it's real. Wow, you guys, seriously, I can't thank you enough. The support, the advice, even just having someone to listen. It meant the world. Pouring this all out anonymously, even though it was tough, made me feel less alone when things were at their absolute worst. Okay, I'm signing off for good now. It's time to move on, on to the next chapter.